What's good, y'all? The Oklahoma City Thunder are the 2025 NBA champions. I am so insanely proud of this team. I'm so happy for this team. I got to tell you, there have been three times in my life. I mean, there have been champions that I've rooted for. Obviously, the Spurs, the Pistons in '04. There have been champions that I've rooted for, but there are only three champions in my lifetime that I have fully invested in. Now, obviously, I was a fan of Michael Jordan going up in the 90s and watched him win a bunch of championships, but that wasn't my team. The Bulls were not my team. They were beating my team, which was the Knicks. And then we moved to Toronto, and Toronto became my team after a little while there. So as much as I was happy for San Antonio, happy for Detroit, it wasn't quite like Toronto. The two championships prior to this one that really felt emotionally invested for me were two somewhat bittersweet championships. One wasn't a championship, it was the Knicks in 99 against the Spurs. And that was really when I became a really huge fan of Tim Duncan. But in all honesty, I was rooting for the Knicks, and the Knicks lost. And that was also a particularly tough time because it was right around the time that my parents were getting a divorce. So it was a lot going on at that time. And then you obviously have the 2019 championship, the Raptors championship. And that was also a very tumultuous time in my life. It just come off a very serious breakup, and I just had a brain surgery. So shit was very tough indeed. Those were the two championships that I genuinely felt like my heart was dropping with every possession. I had to take deep breaths. I was nervous. I was anxious. I don't feel that way when these other teams go into the finals. As much as I love Nikola Jokic, the Denver Nuggets are not my team. And people saying Penstradamus, well, if I was truly Penstradamus, which I'm assuming you're saying that because I picked the OKC Thunder to win the championship in preseason, and I've been saying, all along that they were going to win a championship. If I was truly Penstradamus, I would have picked them to win in 7 and not 4, 3, 5, or whatever else I said. This is a very proud moment. And I felt as this game was going on, obviously, when, the first 3 possessions of the game go off, they're almost all uncontested jumpers. Haliburton has 9 points very quickly. And you're like, uh-oh, it's loud as hell. It's loud as hell in OKC. I got a friend there, saw his video. They were on their feet chanting like a war chant an hour before the game. You cannot imagine that atmosphere for a bunch of 21, 22, 23, 24-year-olds. It's loud. And that moment gets so big and so bright, and you start thinking about all the what ifs and what will this mean, and you can miss the moment. It's possible. In sports, sometimes you have to learn to calm your brain down. And this Indiana team deserves a lot of respect for pushing this unbelievable Thunder defense to 7 games. I could never have seen that coming. Never. I could have never seen it coming. With Haliburton, without Haliburton, nothing. I could not have seen that coming in a million years. I think what this series taught me is a lot of things, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to also talk about the devastating injury in the first quarter. Tyrese Haliburton knew it right away. Torn Achilles. That's 3 All-NBA players, 3 All-Stars, 3 All-Stars, 3 All-NBA players, all of whom who wear the number 0, all of whom with Achilles injuries, all of whom reside in the East, all of whom exited the playoffs with Achilles tears, all of whom will likely miss most, if not all, of next season. And this is why 2 particular trades that were very interesting happened. Number 1 is that Orlando Magic trade for Desmond Bane. Is there a team that currently is more favored to come out of the East right now than that Orlando Magic team? Provided the Celtics sort of tear it apart because of cost clearing and cap sheets, and the Knicks maybe regress a little bit because their core is a little bit older, right? Most of their core is like 30 or above. That Orlando Magic team is young. Desmond Bane is the oldest member of that core. He's 26. I think that Magic team got next. So you look at a team like the Raptors, the Hawks, you look at these teams, they might be looking at their chops saying, Haliburton injury, Giannis staying put, Dame out, Tatum out. Maybe there's an opening. Maybe the team to catch right now has never been so easy to catch, which is Orlando. I think that might be a little bit disrespectful to Orlando. I think Orlando's a very good team, certainly a team that has earned my respect. But, you could certainly understand Cleveland also, of course, has, earned a lot of respect. We'll see if they keep Darius Garland. But the East is wide open. I want to encapsulate my thoughts. I was so nervous watching this game, even after Haliburton left, because I think this team is fully capable of winning without Haliburton in any game. TJ McConnell, huge scoring run in that third quarter, which of course was followed by an enormous scoring run from OKC. I mean, the stats are mind-boggling, right? Shai does not have a great game, but he did have a great game. It's the weirdest shit. Like, he launched a whole bunch of shots in the fourth quarter, missed a ton of shots, so his efficiency doesn't look good. But when this game mattered, he was everything, right? He was everything.
Tell us what's going through your wife with your family.
I apologize for that. 16 points for Pascal Siakam, who sat maybe a little too long for some people, right? Haliburton exits 7 minutes, 9 points. Again, very eerily similar to that Kevin Durant injury in the finals in 2019. Obi Toppin comes off the bench. In 21 minutes, you get 0 points from Obi. 0 points from Tony. 2 points from Tony Bradley. 0 points in that 1 minute, random minute from Thomas Bryant. They just could not get their bigs to do anything for them tonight. Miles Turner was useless. 24 minutes for him, which was the least among those core starters. And they get 6 points out of him, 4 rebounds, consistently outplayed. Aaron Nesmith won his minutes. In a game which you lost by 12, Aaron Nesmith, you were +6 with him on the court in the 30 minutes he played. His defense was very good, and a very big reason why I feel that some of the pressure, sometimes this OKC team goes through droughts where they just really don't look like they know how to score. And they had a couple of those in this game. Specifically in that second quarter, there was a little bit of a dip. There was a little bit of a dip in that fourth quarter. There was a little bit of a lull to start out, the second half. They looked like they had the yips. We were seeing some very bad misses. Shai maybe settling for too many jumpers. I thought his playmaking was fantastic tonight, consistently getting to the tooth of the defense, or at the nail, sucking in that second defender, finding that open shooter. And it's very interesting that Draymond Green yesterday went on his podcast, and he said that his game plan would be to blitz J-Dub, which they did try a couple times, and to let Shai cook, let Shai get whatever he wants. And apparently Rick Carlisle did not agree. I think the hero of this game for me, at least from the Indiana side, clearly Ben Mathurin and TJ McConnell off the bench. Just huge performances. 7 offensive rebounds for Ben Mathurin. Huge. And I want to point something out. Look at this for a sec here. Oh, this is going to blast.
Tell us what's going through your mind right now.
70 field goal attempts for Indiana. Think about that. 70 field goal attempts for Indiana. Do you know why they got 70 field goal attempts and 17 assists? They had 23 turnovers in this game. 32 points conceded off those turnovers. You'll remember that there was a game in this series in which they had a ton of turnovers in game 1, but they probably conceded like 12 points off those turnovers. Their transition defense was not it tonight. Not it. But off the bench, Ben Mathurin, 3 games in this series, he has been huge. And he almost, might have created some magic for them tonight. TJ McConnell, really, again, they had no answer for him. You need to study TJ McConnell. I've been on record saying I think Jamal Shed should study TJ McConnell film all offseason. I think this game really came down to toughness, grit. You see a team that just shot 27% from 3 in a winner take all game 7 at home, 27% from 3, and won a game. You shoot 40% from the field and 27% from 3. You lose 96% of games to 98% of games in the NBA. 98%. And you win by 12. How? Defense. That's what it is. It's defense. Okay? It was all about the pressure. It was all, when this OKC team puts clamps, it's over. You got Lou Dort flying around everywhere. Alex Caruso deserves a ton of credit for his work in this series. He was incredible tonight. Incredible the entire series. I mean, yeah, I think he had an 0 for 8 performance in this season. It doesn't matter, man. Alex Caruso is a walking win. Okay. That's how you win basketball games, right? 20 assists. Shai generated so much offense for this team. And again, 17.
Tell us what's going through.
17 points. 17 field goal attempts differential. And really, it was those turnovers. And on the other end, OKC did not turn the ball over. They had a grand total of 7 turnovers in this game. And 13 offensive rebounds was huge. I think Cason Wallace played really well. He has had a lot of struggles in this series. He deserves a lot of credit. He played well. Alex Caruso, he played well. Off the bench, all of your points came from those two guys. Those two guys combined scored less than Ben Mathurin. This really did come down to that, right? But the big three for OKC, huge, huge. Shai with the playmaking, J-Dub with that sort of connective stuff. Neither of them were very efficient. One guy who was very efficient, but maybe hasn't had the greatest series, maybe got a little bit exposed a couple of times in the series, but Chet Holmgren. I expect him to get better, much better. But this series was an eye-opener for me about how far Chet Holmgren might be physically from contributing meaningfully as a superstar type player at this level, because Lord knows he does have the talent to be that good. But how do you impact the game when things are not working for you with 5 blocks, that rim protection, the anchor to this defense? I think Isaiah Hartenstein, before he got a couple to go down, was really, really shaky, just turnovers and just, he had 2 turnovers. For a dude who barely handles the basketball to have 2 turnovers like that, it was just it was jarring how off rhythm Isaiah Hartenstein was early in this game. And again, you don't get the greatest shooting performance from Lou Dort, who hit the craziest 3, just totally steadied them, right? It almost feels like that 3 that he hit in the third quarter when they were struggling to score anything, it felt like that just steadied them. A lot of people are going to blame Rick Carlisle for benching Pascal Siakam in the third quarter, or maybe not playing Obi Toppin enough, or maybe overplaying Miles Turner. And it's to that I'll say, you know what? Rick Carlisle has forgotten more about basketball over the last week than you will probably ever know. So chill on that. That's not to say you can't criticize a professional decision. Lord knows I do it all the time. And I certainly don't know as much about basketball as some of the people that I criticize. I understand that. But have some humility to understand that it's much easier to make these comments and make these judgments with the benefit of hindsight, knowing how it turned out. If Pascal Siakam had not sat at that interval, he would be approaching close to 40 minutes. And at that point, let's just say you don't end up in a big deficit. I think they were down 11 when he checked back in. Then they were suddenly down 18. And then, Ben Mathurin sort of climbed them back into it in the fourth quarter. But I will say, let's just say hypothetically, you don't suffer this huge, deficit with Siakam. And it's a 5-6 point game in the fourth quarter. And it's down to a couple of possessions. And Siakam runs out of gas because he was playing balls to the wall defensively. He was playing crazy defense. He was great defensively. Throughout this series, Pascal Siakam really opened my eyes to what kind of defender he can be when he locks in. So, look, this I don't agree with. I think Pascal Siakam had a really good series. I think per my expectations of him walking into this series, he was very good. For most of the games, he was great. Really, really great. I don't think in my wildest imagination I could have imagined that he could put up this series against this team. I'm sorry, I don't. Maybe the numbers don't jump out at you. 7 rebounds, 18, 19 points, whatever he scored. The efficiency wasn't always great. There were a couple of stinkers in there. But man, like his defensive presence, his ability to get shots, the defensive pressure, and the matchups that he has. This is not a super team. He is not being flanked by Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. He is being flanked by nobody else that is even remotely on his level offensively as a shot creator. And Ben Mathurin, and TJ McConnell might be close, and Andrew Nembhard, masquerades as one. But please understand that Pascal Siakam, apart from maybe a perfectly healthy Tyrese Haliburton, is the best player on this team. And he played like it. Played really good. And, he I think he outplayed Chet for a lot of this series, and that's not something I would have expected. For him to be the best big man in this series, for him to be arguably the third best player in this series, I did not see that coming. I thought it was going to be Shai, number one, Dub, number two, Haliburton, number three, maybe Siakam, number four. For him to be the third, sometimes second best player in the series is really, truly insane. And, another guy who I think opened a lot of eyes in this series is TJ McConnell, man. TJ McConnell was great. Eric Wallace, you all Thunder fans. Well, I hope they're Thunder fans, and I'll tell you. Look, I don't live in OKC. Apart from Shai and Chet, I really don't. Dub to some extent. I don't really have any necessarily ties to this team. I mean, certainly, I'm very happy for Lou Dort. I'm very happy for Alex Caruso. There's a lot of players on this team that I absolutely adore as basketball players. This would be like if next year a team with Herb Jones, DeJounte Murray, Carter Bryant, Brandon Ingram. Oh, I mean, Brandon Ingram's on our team now. Like if that team won, it's just like a whole bunch of dudes you just root for your whole life, and boom, now they're there, right? This OKC team stands for everything I love about basketball. I'm gonna go on a little bit of a soliloquy that mirrors something that I said on playback, so I'll apologize if I'm being repetitive for anyone who's checking in from playback. But I'll say this: I hate basketball culture today. It's a lot of cook culture. It's a lot of I'm better than you. It's very selfish. It's a lot of self-orientation. I don't follow a lot of sports, but I certainly, dabble a little bit in tennis. I certainly, will listen to a little bit of the discourse around football, European football, hockey, whatever. Basketball discourse is on a new level or a completely different planet, stratosphere of toxicity, stupidity, casualness, this need to just have this thing to say every minute of every day, need to have an opinion about every fucking thing, this conspiratorial weirdo behavior about what this player, is sucks, and this player is trash, and this player is this, and this player is overrated, and this player is not. And just fuck off, man. This team is a team. Both these teams are teams, in fairness, but this team is about everything that I respect about basketball. I respect teams that are innovative. I respect teams that think out of the box. This is a small market team. This is why I loved the San Antonio Spurs so much growing up, is because they were a small market team. They were very outside the box. They went European before everybody else even thought to do so. They had a starting point guard and a starting shooting guard that were from Europe, technically by way of, Manu Ginobili's Argentinian, of somewhat European descent, and Tony Parker, Boris Diaw. That team, their style of basketball was different in an era of complete isolation. And my guy cooks your guy on the block, and my score's got to have 30. You had a selfless superstar who didn't care if he had 12 points. That's why I love Nikola Jokic so much. It's not because he's Serbian; it's because he plays my style of basketball. That's why I love Scotty Barnes so much, because he plays my style of basketball. And that's why I like Darko Rajakovic so much. I've always supported this style of basketball because that's the style of basketball I wanted to play. That's the style of basketball I always thrived in. There's so many examples I can think of when I'd be playing pickup with a bunch of dudes who didn't know how to play basketball, and I'm just standing and I'm cutting and I'm coming off a curl and I don't get the basketball and I just give up. And then you play with a bunch of guys who actually know how to play, and you score 18, 19 points, and you're like, this is the way I want to play basketball. I like the way the Golden State Warriors play basketball. I loved Phil Jackson's triangle principles and Tex Winter's triangle principles. It's just from a basketball perspective, I love what this OKC team is about. Defense, grit, grind, love it. But also from an organizational standpoint, it's just everything I know about this team. They're about all the right stuff. They're about scouting. They're about process. They're about youth. They're about outside of the box thinking. Outside of the box thinking that leads you to have this super young coach and Mark Daigneault, who has no real legacy experience at the NBA level. This out of the box thinking that has you drafting a guy like Jalen Williams, 12th overall, even though everyone else swore that he should have been like a top 20 pick. Maybe he shouldn't have been a top 20 pick. This out of box thinking that has you trading a guy who ends up third in MVP voting in Paul George for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and a whole bunch of picks that you use to catapult yourself. This out of the box thinking that allows you to build these competitive habits where you start to implement structures of a championship culture while still losing games and parking your salary cap, knowing that you have to build through the draft. This out of the box thinking that has you drafting and signing these unheralded, uneventful two-way guys and developing them, and these undrafted guys. This out of the box thinking that has you trading a sixth overall pick in Josh Giddey for a almost 30-year-old at the time, 31-year-old role player in Alex Caruso and extending him. This out of the box thinking that that you need to go out and get Isaiah Hartenstein, another, product of the G League and a guy that was available for literally everybody in the league. Anyone could have had him, but they saw the value in him. In fact, prior to the Raptors signing Otto Porter, Isaiah Hartenstein was my favorite backup center in the NBA. I have plenty of takes on this Pensare Basketball channel of how much I wanted Isaiah Hartenstein in Toronto and how much I loved him. This is before we got Jakob Poeltl. And they went out and they paid for it. Is he worth $27 million? He barely started. He barely played in this series, but they knew they needed him. It's that out-of-box thinking that has you getting guys like Aaron Wiggins. It's that out-of-box thinking that has you taking a guy like Nikola Topic, 12th overall, knowing he's not going to play. It's delayed gratification. It's the investment in your shooting staff, your shooting coaches, paying these people well, bringing in the right people, bringing in the right culture. It's out-of-box thinking that makes you think that a culture about we is better than a culture about me, Even when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander accepted his finals MVP, the first, I think, within a minute, he thanked everybody, credited everybody. This is for the fans. This is for the city. This is for this. This is for the organization. When asked about Jalen Williams, he didn't say he's my sidekick. He said, this trophy belongs to both of us. Imagine that. Imagine in a culture of I'm the best player, I won MVP, Joel Embiid and his fucking ridiculous campaigning for MVP, all the bullshit that we have seen, my player better than your player, all the nonsense to put up with Swiper on PC, all that bullshit aside, which is all, ego-driven, individualistic bullshit, which has no real place in winning basketball, all that nonsense, and you have the best player in the world, the finals MVP, scoring champion, NBA champion. And what does he say? This is our trophy. I love it. Tim Duncan would have done the same thing. Tim Duncan would be proud. Bill Russell would do the same thing too. Thing is, basketball's not that complicated. And yet getting it right is very complicated. But there's a general ethos that I think winning teams run with and operate with. It starts with we. There's no room for this toxic, individualistic, my minutes, my money bullshit. There's none of that. Longtime channel members here, people who are not just coming in today because we're doing it at OKC Live, but people who've been here since day one know that this channel was foundationally built on my disdain for toxic team culture, my disdain for chasing contracts and freezing guys out of the offense to boost your numbers, my disdain for fucking terrible basketball, my disdain for selfish cultures. I hate it. I don't want to root for a team like that. If you've noticed, the Raptors have not won a lot of games over the last 2 years with Darko Rajakovic. Have you seen me crash out very often? No. Have you seen me be pretty optimistic and happy almost every single day covering this bullshit ass team that isn't very good? Yeah, because you know what? I'm a very process-based thinker myself. And I recognize when things are going in a good direction, and I understand when things are going in a bad direction. I'll share with you something that is actually the subject of a conversation that my girlfriend and I had, which was actually stemming from a reel that I watched. I'm going to quote that reel for you because it is a funny ass reel and it is very, very good to just think about this once in a while. There's two things in life that really matter. When you boil it down, forget all the noise, two things in life that really matter. Are you well or are you sick? Give me W if y'all heard this before. I'm totally ripping this. If you're well, you got no problems. If you're sick, two things. Are you getting better or are you getting worse? If you're getting better, no problem. If you're getting worse, two things. You're going to live or you're going to die. If you're going to live, no problem. If you're going to die, two things. You going to heaven or you going to hell? If you're going to heaven, no problem. If you're going to hell, you got to think about two things again. Extra crispy or charbroiled. Those are your problems. Life is a process, man. You gotta get down to the core principles. So when I look at a team, I don't care if you signed the star player. I don't care if you won the offseason or won the headlines. I don't give a fuck if you got 5 first-round picks. I don't care if you got a 35 point per game score or 30 point per game score or I don't care about any of that. It doesn't appeal to me. And it doesn't matter to me if you won 68 games or 62 games or 16 games. None of that matters to me as I break down my overall enthusiasm and how I'm going to cover your team and how excited I am for your success or failure. None of this matters. And frankly, if the OKC Thunder had lost somehow in this game, I would feel no different about them. Nothing would change. Process is very important when it comes to life and basketball. And I'm always, looking for nuggets of wisdom to take from basketball to life because, we're going to spend so much time following the sport. We might as well learn something from it, right? Learn a lot from Shai Alexander about loving your craft, putting in the work, getting, very committed, very detail oriented, and very, falling in love with the work because, that's a predictor of success. People who are in love with the process as opposed to the results or the fruits of their work tend to be a lot more successful because if you don't love the work, you'll quit. That's a predictor of success. People who have honest organizations where a general manager can go to a coach and have their honest conversation and a coach does not feel threatened in that situation, like they're coming after me. That's a very important thing. An organization that treats people with respect. This is a prerequisite, in my opinion, for success. Now, you might bring it back to the Chicago Bulls won 6 championships, and it didn't seem like Michael Jordan was very respectful to Jerry Reinsdorf or, those guys. Or Jerry Krause, sorry, not Jerry Reinsdorf, Jerry Krause. And I understand that. But you had a great mediator like Phil Jackson who was able to stir the pot and make all that work. Without Phil Jackson, that dynamic absolutely does not work. He channeled it. He used it. It worked. Phil made it work. Shaq and Kobe. Phil made it work. Most other teams have to win another way. That's actually the genius of Phil Jackson. He was the only person who could make dysfunctional locker rooms really win basketball games. All these other teams, for the most part, that win it, they're very connected. Very connected. But that connection starts with trust, and trust starts with the process. And the process is, do I trust you as a coach when you bench me, that you have my best interest and the team's best interest? Do I trust you as my teammate when you freeze me out of an offense for a quarter that you're going to get me back in the next quarter? Do I trust you when I pass you the ball that I might get it back? This trust is very, very fickle. It's very difficult to establish, very easy to break. You must preserve it. And you know how you preserve it? Top down, organizational syncing. Everybody's got to be on the same page. Can't have 85 different people going in 85 different directions. That's what's wrong with Denver. Denver, you have Mike Malone going one way, Jokic going another way, Russ going his way, Michael Porter Jr. going his way, Jamal Murray probably feeling some different way about something, Calvin Booth going his way. That doesn't work. The minute you remove Calvin Booth and Mike Malone, you remove a really giant source of frustration, and they got better. They got better for it, right? A lot of people want to reinvent a timeline in which Pascal Siakam in Toronto works, but it doesn't work if he doesn't buy in. If he didn't want to buy in here, but he's willing to buy in there, that's not really an indictment on Toronto, and that's not necessarily an indictment on Pascal Siakam. I think of it like a divorce. Is one person always bad and one person's always good? The way I look at a breakup or a divorce or a firing is it's not the right fit. Not the right fit is not the right fit. But you look at this OKC Thunder team, and what they do is everything I love about basketball. As I said, they scout well, they coach well, they promote from within, they communicate well. Heard a lot of stories about this team's communication style. They're very aggressive about preserving their values and principles off the court and on the court. This team is super connected. You could really feel like they're genuinely, I'm not saying this like to be funny. They're genuinely in love with each other. This team fights for each other. They're scrapping for each other. When one guy goes, misses an assignment, Boom, there's the other guy. He's got his back. That's how you win. That's how you win in sports. That's how you win in life. That organizational culture. There's so many studies throughout other industries that show people who come to work who actually like the people they work with are more productive. They're better. They'll stay longer. Wouldn't you? If you hate coming to work, you're clocking out at 5. If you love work, you might stay till 6:30. And to be honest, to be successful, sometimes you need to stay till 6:30. Sometimes you need to pull an all-nighter. You're not going to do that for a boss you don't like. You're not going to do that for a company that treats you poorly. And you're certainly not going to do that in an office you can't stand because you hate your employees. This is where team culture comes in. It's not just about putting people who are together, who are buddy-buddy. It's about putting people who have a united mission. And this team had one mission: championships. That's all they wanted, winning. I watched this team live face the Toronto Raptors. The most depressing moment of my season was watching my second favorite team curb stomp the shit out of my Raptors. Curb stomp them. The Raptors didn't look like Grady Dick looked like a fucking child out there. Scotty Barnes looked like a G League scrub. Nobody could move against this team. And that's when I really started to feel so solid about how good this team is. So solid that they could come in and take care of business like this against the Raptors to the point where it's not even there. They're not looking at, oh, it's Toronto. They're not a very good team. They got some guys out. RJ's not playing, whatever. They're not looking at that. They're looking at us versus us. And also a huge predictor of success. The game within the game. It's always you versus you. The other people are just a distraction. That's what I take away from this championship, is that you have this superstar in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and he is every bit a superstar. I don't care how Magic Johnson defines superstardom and how the league feels about him being marketable or unmarketable. It doesn't matter. I don't care about that. Bill Russell, to me, is still the second or third greatest player of all time, and he probably wasn't marketable to a lot of people either. Certainly people in Boston didn't feel Bill Russell was marketable. I think Tim Duncan's the top 5 player of all time. Certainly people didn't think he was marketable. People were like, oh my God, Tim Duncan, the big fundamental. He's so snoozy. Can't watch this guy play. Well, did the ball go in or did the ball not go in? Did he lead or did he not lead? Did he defend or did he not defend? Was he one of the greatest rim protectors of all time or not? That's all that matters to me. At the end of the day, that's what matters. And, everybody wants to throw everything back on, well, R.C. Buford just knows how to draft. Greg Popovich knows how to coach. Well, maybe Tim Duncan knows how to lead, The shit starts with your franchise guy. Because if your main guy is not about it, I don't care who you draft. It's never going to work. When the guy that is the face of your franchise is not about what you're about as an organization, it doesn't work. It does not work. Scotty Barnes, to me, is everything that you want in a franchise player. Personally, mentally. He's about the right stuff. He's about winning. Never counts his stats. Never cares. Always playing hard. Cares about defense. Cares about his teammates. That's the championship formula. Why do you think this team will not move off of him? Why do you think they don't want to trade him for anybody? Why do you think he's untouchable back to back to back off seasons? Because this is what wins. When you get a guy like this, you don't trade him away because he shot poorly from 3 one year. I can fucking withstand that. You know what I can't withstand? A dude who is about his stats. A dude that everyone can tell this guy's going to go off against Charlotte when they're depleted in December and freeze all his teammates out because he's chasing all NBA and the bag. Because that shit's a distraction. That is a distraction. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is one of my favorite players of all time, man. To put into words what this guy does and how he does it is truly insane. Can't keep him in front of you. He's a good defender, great leader, evolving shooter. And you know what's crazy? I think he's going to get better. I really do. Among all the players on OKC that I think are going to get better, Dub is going to get better. Kayson's going to get better. Chet's going to get better. I trust this team, man. I trust this team because he doesn't let up. He doesn't let up. You can bet your fucking ass that this dude is going to approach his offseason like they didn't even win a championship. I can seriously, I don't know Shai, but I know enough people that have told me stories about him growing up and how he's been, and I've listened to enough interviews that he's done. I read him. I know that this guy's not approaching the offseason like, oh, okay, I guess the job is done. No. I think this championship motivates him to go harder. I think, honestly, I've seen him doing those box jumps and those drills and fucking shooting 700, 800 fucking shots. He's probably going to shoot 1,000 now. This is not over. This is what the greats that we talk about, the Kobe's, the Michaels, the LeBrons. What do you think, man? LeBron scores 20,000 points. Most people quit. You know, they're like, oh, well, I guess I got what I wanted. Most people sign the big contract. They're like, oh, whatever. It takes something really psychotic to get what you want and get what everybody in the whole world wants and says, nope, not satisfied. One championship? Nope, don't want one. I want 3. Get greedy. Get really greedy. With your success, bro, so many people fall off after they have success, man. We've seen it. I swear to God, we see coaches like this. You know, we see players like this where they win one, and what happens in the offseason? Whole offseason fucking partying, nonsense, bullshit, coming to offseason totally fat, totally out of shape, trying to play yourself into condition. I will guarantee you that there's no team that is going to come into this season, the 2025-2026 season, more locked in to win a championship than OKC. They're not taking this off. They're gonna soak in the champagne today. They're gonna be on that bus tomorrow. Those buses were getting mercilessly trolled prior to the game. They're gonna be, you know, sipping that champagne, enjoy the moment, soak it in, be thankful, and next week they're gonna be back at it. This, I'll guarantee you, Sam Presti was up there, super excited. He's cooking in the draft in 2 days. They're making moves. I wouldn't be surprised if literally this dude is up all night making trade calls. This organization is so fucking relentless when it comes to chasing excellence. It is really impressive to watch. If you know what this is about, I know we have a lot of smart, community members. And I feel like talking to some of y'all, meeting some of y'all at Pendance, I feel like you get what I'm putting down right now. This is good for the world. This is good for basketball. This is good. Now, what does this mean? What does Tyrese Haliburton's injury mean? What does OKC's championship mean? How can OKC get better? Let's cap that off. I just heard my girlfriend get home, so it's past midnight. I do want to. I've done 3 lives today. We did the playback. We did panel. I did 1 live. This is my 4th. This is my 4th. Yeah, it's my 4th live. This is crazy. I'm exhausted. So I do want to say, Haliburton's injury definitely opens up the East a lot. We talked about it a little bit. What can this OKC team do to get better? I think they need to shore up some of their offensive concerns, man. Sometimes this team looks like they're crawling through mud. They don't have anything with Shai. If he's not cooking and if he's not getting to the line, I think we saw some progression from J-Dub getting to the line. I think he can evolve. I think we can see Chet getting a little bit stronger. I think Kaysen can work a little bit more on his ball handling and get a little bit more shifty and dynamic off the dribble so he can expand his game a little bit. I certainly think that most of their young players are getting better. I'm not sure how I feel about Ousmane Dieng, but I'm positive that Nikola Topic, I'm watching this series. I know Nikola Topic's game. He would have helped in this series. Like, I think his skill set would help. I don't know if he can help because of the shooting concerns, but his skill set would help. A guard who can get 2 feet in the paint, find shooters, he can help. Because when that offense gets stagnant, it gets super stagnant, right? Chet just needs to get back to shooting, man. This dude, the dude that I saw at Gonzaga was a much better shooter than the player I'm watching right now. By the way, this is a call-in show. If y'all want to call in real quick, the link is in the description for sure, right? Yeah. So I think, the West is getting a lot more competitive. Obviously, Dallas next year with Cooper Flag. We'll see what happens with Kyrie. They're a team to watch, right? Memphis, obviously, looking probably going the other way. Houston is possibly a contender with Kevin Durant based on what they do with the rest of their roster. They could technically trade some guys. There's a huge fallout of this KD trade, which is there are 4 teams that didn't get him, that had packages on the table to get him. What did they do with those players now? What did the Raptors do with RJ Barrett? Are they keeping him? I don't know. What did the Miami Heat do with their poo-poo platter that they were offering? What does Minnesota do now that everybody knows that they offered Rudy Gobert, and Rudy Gobert knows that they offered Rudy Gobert? Like, do they move him? Do they still move him? Do they move him somewhere else? We'll see, right? Rudy Gobert is still a great defensive center. Offense, questionable, but defensively, he's a huge value add for somebody looking to win a championship next year. What did the Boston Celtics do? I know they weren't in on the KD sweepstakes, but they got to clear some cap space. This could be a very, very active offseason. And I do believe that when the dust settles, OKC will still be on top. But how big is their margin? That will depend on what they do with the draft. And I do believe that this team needs to understand that, just like their players are not going to be complacent, I don't think they should be complacent. And I know they won't be. I think they should explore a trade for Cameron Johnson. I just don't know how they're going to afford it. I don't know if this team is going to go deep into the luxury tax. They were the youngest team in the NBA this year. They were also one of the cheapest teams in the NBA this year. It's not going to be cheap for long. Chet is going to be extended. J-Dub is going to be extended. I don't know if Shai is willing to take less money to be there. I have no idea if that's, going to be the case, but I doubt it. He is a superstar and he deserves to be paid like one. So, you're going to have to find cheap value on the fringes and, continue to cook in the undrafted heap and continue to find value on the margins and second round picks and late firsts and whatever. But they have an abundance and, frankly, an embarrassment of assets. And I expect them to use some of those assets to make a trade. I doubt that they go this entire offseason without making a couple of trades. And I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of those trades address their need for movement shooting. I wonder if players like Isaiah Joe, who didn't play a lot in this series, are available. I wonder if Aaron Wiggins is available. I wonder if potentially Cason Wallace might be available as a sweetener. I wonder if that 15 and 24 is in play for them to move up a spots because they don't have enough roster spots for those guys. I do wonder. And I do wonder what else Houston is going to do. Kevin Durant is not the final step. I'll guarantee you, Houston's not done making moves. Phoenix is not done making moves. San Antonio is not done making moves. San Antonio has got a pretty appetizing offer for something. Are they going to go and look for Jaylen Brown? Well, now, De'Aaron Fox, Dylan Harper, Victor Wembanyama, Jaylen Brown. Okay, now there's another title contender potentially in the West. So the West is getting very scary. If I was the Memphis Grizzlies, I would pull the plug on this and I would try to get as many picks as I can for Jaren Jackson Jr. and John Morant and just restart my timeline. So, Mark saying, did Houston re-sign Fred VanVleet? Fred VanVleet has a team option. They will decline it. And he will very likely, from what I'm hearing, sign an extension with them. They love him. Ime Udoka loves him. And obviously with Kevin Durant in play, we'll see. I don't think he's going to get $40 million. I very much doubt he's going to get $30 million. But I think something around $25 million for 2 years would be a pretty fair value for Fred VanVleet in this contract situation. Maybe $30 million max. 30 is a lot, in my opinion, for a guard, an undersized guard who's over 31 in that. Maybe decline his contract structure, as Jack is saying, for sure. We do have a caller, Elliot. Elliot, what is up, man? What's good, Elliot?
How you doing, man? Good to see you. Can you hear me? Is everybody okay?
Yeah, I can.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Listen, I'm speaking on two fronts. First front, on the OKC Thunder. I have not seen a team run so well top to bottom than the Raptors in 19. And
sure.
I think Sam Presti is one of the best minds in basketball, period. And the one thing I realize is that whenever OKC and Toronto get together, who's in conversation all the time? Sam and Masai. They get together, they have their chats, they exchange views, they go their separate ways.
Mm-hmm.
But they're always taking away something from each other. And I think
Masai and Sean Marks as well.
Sean Marks as well, yeah, absolutely.
And I really like what they're doing in Brooklyn, by the way, just for the record. I love what they're doing in Brooklyn. Their hiring of Jordi Fernandez, which is the coach I wanted for the Raptors initially.
I did as well. Yeah, I did as well.
So everything, their willingness to move. I mean, here's something that might shock you. I don't know if you've thought about this. That Kevin Durant trade that Brooklyn made with the Phoenix Suns. Have you thought about it? Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, right?
Yes.
It was 5 first-round picks, right?
Wow.
They turned, if it's not 5, it's 4. I believe it's 5. Okay. And they turned Mikal Bridges into another 5 first-round picks. So really, they traded Kevin Durant for like 10 first-round picks, when you really think about it. And Cam Johnson, who they will probably turn around and trade for 2 first-round picks. That is masterful.
That's another OKC.
Sean Marks is awesome. Sean Marks is really good.
Yeah. That's another OKC. That's exactly how OKC built their title.
They are definitely following that model for sure. And they have a lot of draft picks in this upcoming draft. Obviously, they moved down just like the Raptors did they moved from 6 to 8 or 5 to 8. They have 8, 26, 27. I think they have 18 as well. I mean, they have scouted this draft very, very well. I mean, I've been hearing from people in the New York area who are very familiar with them and the front office and stuff, and they're just like, watch out, they're gonna destroy this draft. Like they have done a great job with this draft. Sean Marks is a great talent evaluator. Look at the players that they found. So yes, I mean, this is the model, and they're a big market team. Brooklyn is a reasonable market, in the New York area. So like typically we haven't really seen big market teams that were really well run in a while. Brooklyn is really well run.
No, we'll give it to the Knicks as well. They finally getting their act together.
I don't think they're well run at all. I think they're very lucky that Jalen Brunson and OG Anunoby worked out, but a well run team does not trade 6 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges, in my opinion.
Touche, sir. Touche. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm glad it's certainly commendable to see Brooklyn turn it around because they're one of the worst run teams in the NBA, especially after the Garnett trade, especially after Paul Pierce.
Agreed.
They just literally tanked it. But
Joe Tsai has given them autonomy. Like he's not meddling, which I think is a lesson that Matt Ishbia and frankly Vivek Ranadive need to take as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But look, and how they turned it around since Durant, since Kyrie Irving, and I mean, it's great to see that Brooklyn's starting to turn around again. The Raptors are, hopefully ahead in their timeline so that they don't see any
they definitely are.
doom.
Yeah, but I mean, for how long will they be ahead? The Nets could potentially bottom out and get someone like AJ DeBonsa next year. Now you have an actual threat, in the conference. So that's to me, it's the long-term play, but it's all about windows. The Raptors have, in my opinion, a window of probably in mind, maybe 2027 to 2030. Okay. And if the Nets draft AJ DeBonsa, he's not going to be an MVP right away. So maybe the Nets are looking at more like 2029, 2028. You know what I mean? So the Raptors are just a little bit ahead. Obviously, if Scottie Barnes becomes an actual superstar, they'll be a lot ahead. But yeah.
Well, who knows if SGA becomes a free agent? I've always said, that I've always been asking the Raptors to bring him home.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens then. But I
doubt it. I wouldn't hold my breath. I mean, as much as he loves Canada, it feels like he's very, very. First of all, like whenever I hear someone say Kobe was their favorite player, usually, I'm not saying always, but a lot of times that usually means that they liked the part about staying with one team. Devin Booker, huge Kobe fan. Jason Tatum, huge Kobe fan.
Right.
Both guys stayed with their teams and have stayed with their teams all the way through, never demanded a trade out. Scottie Barnes also, by the way, huge Kobe fan. And yeah, Shai was also a huge Kobe fan. So Shai has said multiple times that Kobe is the greatest player of all time. So I'm just saying, like, Kobe set a model for staying with one team the entire way through. And I think a lot of these guys feel that way. So I don't think that Shai is going to demand out and, whatever.
No, and I think he's a Sam Presti devotee. I really don't think
he has a good thing going. He loves his team. He's not going to turn his back on City to come to Toronto. So yeah, I know the way this Toronto media works. They're all gonna, the minute he comes up for free agent, they're gonna be like, But if Masai Ujiri is smart, and if Masai Ujiri is still here at that point, he will not pursue it very, very seriously because it's not I don't think it's a chance in hell.
Just as a sidebar, what do you think of Masai's future in Toronto then?
I don't know. I don't know enough about the Rogers situation. I certainly hope he stays. He has my vote. I don't have a vote, but if I had a vote, if I was on the Rogers board, I would vote 100% for him to stay. I love Masai.
I just don't like that owner. The owner's he's got some.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, Elliot?
Yes. One more thing.
Sure.
I know of SJ's dad.
Amazing.
And
how so?
I've known him for the last 20, 25 years.
Okay.
And the one thing that...
Are you from Toronto or are you from Hamilton?
I'm from Toronto. Yeah, I'm from Toronto.
Okay. Yes. So Shai grew up in Toronto early, right? And then he moved to Hamilton?
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And my sister's ex, him and Shai's dad were like our best friends to this day. And with their interactions. I've spoken to him on many occasions. And the one thing that I must say about his dad is that is, cool, calm, collected, but driven.
Hmm.
And that is reflected in his son. Very cool, very calm, very driven, very collected. And always wanting more. And, it's, I'm just saying, expect big things from this kid. Don't think this is going to be a one-hit wonder. Don't think that this is going to be a flash in the pan. This guy's going to be around for a while. This guy is destined for Hall of Fame status.
He's already a Hall of Famer in my book.
Yeah.
First ballot, lock it. When you go out and you win a scoring championship, MVP, finals MVP, conference finals MVP in the same season, like that's too much. And you add in his Team Canada career, youth career. My God.
Yeah.
This guy has already at 26 put together a Hall of Fame career. At this point, I'm curious if he can put together a second Hall of Fame career. Yeah.
Where would you rank this season for SJ in the annals of MVPs in terms of and the greatest seasons in NBA history?
I would put it above every D Wade season, all but 2 Steph seasons, a few Michael seasons, and probably every single Kobe season.
Right. Would it be top 5 all time?
No.
10.
Because Michael Jordan existed and he literally did this shit every year and he was a much better defender. Jordan, but if you take Michael Jordan, maybe some Magic Johnson, Tim Duncan, you take like the 7 greatest players out of it, I think it's probably up there. I don't think this season, I'm respectfully to Shai, I don't think this season is better than what Jokic did 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Shaq 2000, that was a crazy season, winning MVP and Finals MVP and shit. So yeah, there's Hakeem in '94. I mean, there's a lot, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I would say there's a couple of Kobe seasons that are very, very up there with this for sure. 2002, 2003, I think is up there. 2009, because again, like if you're talking about winning a championship, you're winning scoring title, you're being this consistently excellent. There's not a lot of players in NBA history, especially not a lot of guards. Anyways, man, thanks a lot for calling in, Elliot. Appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. Have a great night.
See ya. We got one more caller, Riley. Got to unmute yourself, man. Riley, what's up?
I actually have a question. What do you think of the Raptors versus Pacers in a 7-game series? I was just thinking about that. And
With Haliburton or without Haliburton?
With Haliburton.
I picked the Raptors.
I agree. I think we match up really well with them.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, man. Like, here's the thing. I said a couple of days ago on, I was doing a Q&A on the Instagram stories, and someone asked me like, "Hey, Pen, with everything that Pascal Siakam's done this off, during the postseason, can you finally admit that he's better than Scotty Barnes?" I'm like, "Fuck no. Like, I don't think so. I think
right."
And I understand the kind of angle that people take on this because shot making is so valuable to people, and bag work and dribble and all that stuff is so valuable. But to those people, I would say Desmond Bane just went for like 3 times more than what Jalen Green went for. Like empty calorie scoring. I'm not calling Siakam an empty calorie scorer at all. He's a very efficient scorer and a very good player and definitely multiples better than Jalen Green. I think the Thunder are just way better coached at this point, but I think Darko can get there. I don't know. It's high praise to say Darko will ever get to the level of Rick Carlisle, but we'll see. He's a very young coach. Carlisle was not Rick Carlisle when he was Darko's age, so he'll get there. Very smart guy. But I think, getting a stretch big would be the difference. Like, if you make it this simple, you swap Miles Turner onto this team, it's a wash,
Yeah. No, I mean, in the regular season games against the Pacers, Pirtle like locked down Siakam like no problem.
Scotty also did a great job on him as well.
Yeah, it might
and
be
also we didn't have we
comparisons,
didn't have Brandon Ingram, right?
Exactly.
Like, I just don't think, like, here's the thing, like as good as OKC is, as good as the teams they faced are, I just feel like the Raptors have a lot more talent than people realize. And I'm including RJ Barrett in this equation, but also Brandon Ingram. Like, you just don't have a lot of teams that can match up with 3 big playmakers like this. So in a sense, while I'm perfectly fine with trading RJ Barrett, there's also a part of me that's morbidly curious to see what this looks like. A 2-3-4
Yeah.
of Scotty, Ingram, and Barrett, good luck. Like, to whoever the hell is trying to stop that, good luck. If those guys become even remotely more efficient, and I certainly think playing with each other, they will make each other more efficient. Damn. I mean, shit, like RJ Barrett, the first year he was here was so much more efficient. Scotty Barnes playing next
Yeah.
to Pascal Siakam was so much more efficient. Does Brandon Ingram replicate a lot of that offensively for those two guys? Sure. And he's younger too. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the Raptors being like probably a 45 to 46 win team. And at that point, you know, it's a toss up between them and the Pacers. And without Haliburton, very curious. But you know, this will be even more so if Grady and Jamal Shedd and Jacoby Walter can take a step off the bench. Can they do something close to what Ben Shepherd, Ben Matherin, TJ McConnell, guys like this, right? And I will say that just for my money right now, based on what I've seen in this playoffs, I would probably give the edge of Nemhard over Quickly. But I'm curious to see if Quickly can have a big bounce back season next year because, you know, defensively, I was expecting a lot more from Quickly when we traded for him for sure.
Yeah, I think if we get Malawatch, that's my hope, because then we'll have a backup center and the squad is kind of rounded out.
Sure. I personally would. I'm rooting for Carter Bryant. So I'm just going to let you know, like on the draft, if we select Kaman Malawatch, my face is probably going to tell you I'm fucking pissed as hell. But it's not because I don't love Kaman. Kaman is easily top 6 on my board. Love him a lot. Think he's great. Think he's going to be a really good player. Could be amazing.
And
But yeah,
Pirtle's like the perfect center to like teach him, because he's so like fundamentally sound. He can teach him
yeah.
all like the
What do you
nuances.
think about him? I'm just curious.
I think he's just a prototypical like shot blocking. Like he just nothing fancy. He just like, I don't know. Hard to explain. I just
Where
think
would you
he's
rank him among shot blockers in this draft? Among like those center prospects, you think he's like the best shot blocker in this draft?
To be honest, I don't know the deep centers that well. Like Derek Queen isn't a shot blocker. He's like a Shengun, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay, hypothetically compared to the shot blockers who came up in last year's draft, do you think he's a better shot blocker than Donovan Clingan or Alex Sarr?
oh yeah. I didn't
So
think
he's not.
Klingon was. I was disappointed with Klingon. I thought he'd be a lot better.
Really, that's interesting. So yeah, I disagree completely with that. Just, you know, if you want my take on it, I think Donovan Clingan is a considerably better shot blocker than Kaman Malawatch. And, you know, it'll be interesting to see what those numbers look like in a different context. Because obviously we only saw Kaman in one context. And physically, he should be a great shot blocker. 7'7"
Yeah.
wingspan, longest wingspan in the draft. Those guys typically block a lot more shots at the NBA level. And he's a legit 7'2". So he
Right.
should be a great shot blocker. It will come down to whether or not he has an interest in shot blocking. I will tell you, Jaren Jackson Jr. was a beastly shot blocker in college. He blocked almost 3 times as many shots per minute than Malawatch. So
Right.
when you look at the truly elite shot blockers, Walker Kessler, this year maybe more Ryan Kalkbrenner, previously Jaren Jackson, Miles Turner, guys who like typically put up like those 3, 4. Rudy
Right.
Gobert obviously didn't play college basketball. Those guys typically had like much better numbers as shot blockers. The problem with Kaman is obviously the rebounding numbers are not great either, and rebounding really translates. So he's not a better rebounder at the collegiate
Yeah,
level
that
than
does scare me a bit.
yeah.
That
So
last
I'm just
game
saying,
was
like,
super sketch. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, I think that last game being in the moment that it was in was kind of terrible for him. And obviously the fact that they lost, you know, you think back, you're like, man, if he could have gotten one more offensive rebound, maybe it's a different situation. But he was going through a lot that day with the Sudan stuff and everything that happened. So obviously I'm perfectly fine with it. I do believe in Ulrich as a backup big. Like I do think
Yeah.
like eventually he'll get there. I don't think he's that much more raw than Kaman. I wonder what his he is more raw than Kaman for sure. Like the offense is way further behind in terms of shot making and stuff. I think Kaman actually has more potential offensively than defensively, believe it or not.
But didn't he get? How bad was his injury?
Who? Ulrich?
Yeah.
He's good. He's good now.
Oh. Oh.
He's
Okay.
gonna
Good.
be at summer league. He's gonna be fine.
Okay, that's good.
From what I've heard, he's fine.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
provided no setbacks over the last 4 weeks since I last heard, he's on progress. He's going to be
Right.
fine. So yeah, me personally, I'm not. I understand most Raptor fans are thinking we need a big, we need a big, we need a big, or they're thinking very fundamentally we need a point guard. We need a point guard. So a lot of fans are kind of split between Jeremiah Fears and
Oh, I like him too.
yeah,
I do not like
yeah.
Derek Queen though on this team. I think that'd be a mess.
It could be messy. I like Queen's talent. I don't love the fact that he showed up 18% body fat
Right.
and I'm sure that the Raptors will not like that either. If you look at all the Raptors draft prospects, I don't think they've ever drafted a guy with a like Scotty Barnes had a 5% body fat percentage.
Yeah, he's a
That's
freak.
insane. Like he's there's no fat on this dude. Like he's
Yeah.
insanely ripped. Jacoby was the same way. Grady was pretty similar-ish. Like they just don't draft guys who have conditioning issues. In my experience with Masai, this is like a non-negotiable with him. So
Yeah.
that to me kind of rules him out. They typically, I wouldn't be surprised if Fears is their guy. I wouldn't be surprised if they take Ace Bailey if he falls down to 9. Although I don't think he's going to fall down to 9. But I have a feeling Carter Bryant is their guy. I'm hoping, praying to God that Carter Bryant is their guy. But if Carter's not their guy, I'll just root for him on whatever team he ends up on. Yeah. Anyways, any final thoughts?
I'm just super high on the Raptors next season. I really think they're gonna like fit together well. I think they're gonna be at least number 5. Even without, not, this is discounting the draft. If they draft like well, I think this core could be insane. I don't know
Yeah.
why. I just have a feeling like
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
yeah.
All right, Riley. Thanks a lot for calling in. Appreciate
No
you.
worries. Thanks.
Yep. All right. I can't wait to get the season started. It's going to be really fun. We're going to have probably a lot more guests this off season. That's going to be fun too. Hopefully we can take this channel up a notch. And, to those of you who only hang out with us in the off season and weren't here for the regular season, some games we had 400, 500 people bumping at, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. talking basketball. That was a gift. That was a super awesome thing. We were often able to break down a little bit of tape. I'm working this off season on trying to figure out a way to format my live streams for post games that are going to get even better. And it's been somewhat of a, let's call it an unfortunate tragedy throughout my time with Pensare Basketball that I've never really covered like a great version of the Raptors. Like this channel really blew up the season after they made the playoffs with Scotty Barnes in his rookie season. I mean, obviously we were around when Scotty was a rookie, but we really took off that off season with the Otto Porter, Christian Coloco videos. I remember, going from like 800 subscribers to 1,000 subscribers. And of course, everything since then has been a massive disappointment. To recap very briefly, for those of you who are Raptor fans who are just here celebrating Shai, to recap very briefly, since that time, we've had a free agent signing in Otto Porter Jr. that did not work out. We had a draft pick in Christian Coloco that did not work out. One due to injury, one due to blood clots. That was disappointing as fuck. We had a team that completely imploded and a podcaster who probably put a lot of gray hairs on his head, calling out the media, calling out the players, calling out whatever, and probably alienating and pissing off a lot of people in the process. And then we had the infamous Chicago Bulls playing game in which the Raptors lost. And they traded for Jakob Poeltl and subsequently lost multiple second round picks. And also, oh, by the way, lost their fucking draft pick, and of course, they drafted Grady Dick, who has been somewhat questionable to date. I'm certainly rooting for the guy and pulling for the guy, but that was not my biggest moment as a draft analyst. Kind of having that moment where I just, I was, if y'all remember, I was doing it with Leo, and I just kind of dipped my head off the screen because I was just so disappointed that we picked the guy who was 19th on my board or 20th on my board. I mean, I was very low on Grady Dick coming into the draft cycle, so that was a very tough moment. And then the Raptors proceeded to implode. Fred VanVleet left. I was happy about that. Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby were traded. RJ Barrett comes here. And, we go into the offseason, the first offseason with that trio, and we lose our draft pick. We lose our draft pick. And of course, I'm there saying, well, thank God we don't have to worry about this again next year. And then we come into this year, we lose a whole bunch of games again in the sake of development, and we stay positive. And what happens at the end of the season? We end up moving from 5th or 4th to all the way to 7th. And then we move from 7th to 9th. And once again, putting a smile on my face saying, okay, it's cool, guys. We're fine. I'm going to tell you, I don't think my mental health can tolerate another draft day disappointment. So I'm really hoping we go with the guy that we trust. Obviously, I'm going to trust Masai Ujiri more than I trust myself, but I trust myself a lot as a draft evaluator, and I would trust Carter Bryant to be the best player in that group. But obviously, if the Raptors feel differently, I'm going to root for that guy. If it's Noah Senge, I'm going to root for him. If it's Kasparis Yakushonis, I'm probably going to vomit in my mouth, but I'm still going to root for him. And there's probably, if it's Derek Queen, I'm a go and put up a flyer around wherever he ends up living, find every donut shop in the fucking vicinity, and say, do not serve this guy. The Raptors need this guy locked in. So, I mean, whatever it is, I will be there. And I hope that my favorite player on my favorite team, the Raptors, Scotty Barnes, with one of my other favorite players in the league, Jacoby Walter, with another one of my favorite players in the league, Brandon Ingram, can cook up next season, because I happen to love this team. I happen to have a great deal of respect for this coach, for this president. Don't have a lot of respect for the ownership, to be honest. But I really hope that they're able to add 2 young pieces to this core, and maybe to make some smart trades on the margins and find an undrafted guy. I can't wait for Summer League. Can't wait for next season. And you know what? We had 300-400 people. I hope we have 800 this year. If we're a good team, I'll welcome a lot of people back. And I will try, in my heart of hearts, to be just a lot better as a podcaster. Do you think Jacoby could develop to be a J-Dub? Not really, but I think he could. I think he could be. I don't think he's ever going to be J-Dub. Like, the physical advantages of J-Dub are completely different than Jacoby. He's a completely different athlete, completely different frame, completely different game, completely different playmaker type. But if you're talking about status in the league, I wouldn't rule it out. I would not rule it out. Elliot Roberts saying, will you have a draft night show this season? Elliot, I got you covered. Not only will we have a draft show, we will have 2 draft shows, one for each night. The 25th, Wednesday night, we will start at 6:30 or 7 o'clock. Airson will be here, so you get double the draft coverage from 2 guys who have studied this draft very deeply, but obviously from very, very different angles. Airson has done a lot more work with the European guys than I have, and I'm going to be studying over the next 2 days to work on that. Tomorrow, I'm going to do my best to get that Catherine video out, the video with Dr. Catherine McIntosh on the neuroscience of prospect evaluation. We'll do a live, probably one more live, where we do a final big board so you guys are prepared at home. Obviously, I implore you, I honestly do, I implore you guys to do your own research, and don't just watch highlights of these players. Don't just listen to Sam Vecini and whoever else you listen to. Don't listen to me. Make your own opinions about these guys, and be willing to be wrong. Make your own boards if you want to participate, or, use my board and, feign disappointment or excitement when the Raptors pick the 19th guy on my board again. We'll see. But yeah, I don't know. A lot of shit happened today, man. Tyrese Haliburton tears his Achilles. One of my favorite players wins Finals MVP. Thank God. One of my favorite teams wins the NBA championship. And one of my favorite players of all time gets traded to the Houston Rockets for 2 of my least favorite players of all time, in Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green. Can't write this shit, man. I'm going to catch y'all later. This is maybe John D will come on. No, he will be doing a joint live with Mars. John D has obviously done a lot more draft analysis work, research than Mars, so pretty cool to see what they have to say too. But yeah, Airson and I are draft sickos this year. Airson writes about draft stuff all the time. If you want to see more of Airson's work, you can definitely check out our mock draft video that we got. Penn, get on the Pelicans train now. Why would I get on the Pelicans train? You want me to I would love to trade for Trey Murphy, but I don't think that's happening, to be honest with you. I don't necessarily think that's happening. Okay, before we get out of here, final thing I will say is congratulations to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Job well done. Amazing. Love that team. All about the right stuff. Thank you for putting up with my rambling, stuff about them. And if you haven't watched our mock draft, check it out. It never in NBA history has a 59th pick ever held up a trade until now. But, leave it to Airson.
Give me Continental.
Queen can help alleviate the rebounding that Sar gives up.
How about RJ and Grady? Deal. Done. They're going to hate me for this. They're going to say I overpaid.